Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason and plot. I've seen no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Guy Fawkes, 'twas his intent to blow up the king and the parliament. 3 barrels of powder below, who roll England to overthrow. By God's providence he was catch, with a dark lantern and burning match. Holla boys, let the bells ring. Holla boys, God save the king.
Well, welcome back to Nikki's Nosh, and of course I'm Nikki. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. It's going to be a dessert, but it's a dessert related to Bonfire Night. Now, Bonfire Night is held on the 5th of November of every year, and it's been celebrated since 1606. Now, that's quite an amazing time, but let's go back to 1605. On the night of the 4th of November, a young man called Guy Fawkes, was found in the undercroft of the Houses of Parliament in London. Surrounding him were something like 30 barrels of gunpowder, and he had a fuse in his hand, a short fuse in his hand. The aim was that he should stay there, light a fuse, and it would slowly go ignite, and the gunpowder would explode when the King James I, remember that, King James I of England and Scotland, was opening Parliament. He was foiled, he was arrested, along with about 8 or 9 other conspirators. So as a result, by the January of 1606, they were all convicted and they were hung, drawn and quartered. Now, if you know what hung, drawn and quarters is, first of all, they're hung. Drawn means they have all their guts taken out, and then they're quartered. Their body is chopped into quarters, and each quarter is sent to a different part of Britain. So one would be sent to Edinburgh, one would be sent to York, where we are here now in York. Another one would be sent, I don't know quite where the other two, one was obviously in London. And they were hung, these various pieces of the various contributors would be put on pikes and put onto the gates coming into the city. We used to get them on the Micklegate bar is, but that's where they used to put all the... And the aim was that they would put these quarters of people there to actually warn people, if you do what they did, this is what will happen to you. King James I decided that there would be a celebration, that they foiled the Gunpowder Plot. And as a result of it, a number of traditions were formed. First of all, there was to be a bonfire, and on the bonfire should be an effigy. Now, initially it was an effigy of all the plotters, but slowly but surely, Guido Fawkes, became the sort of the focus of the whole thing, because he was the guy they caught. He was a guy who'd been fighting in the Spanish Netherlands, which is now part of Belgium, and he was fighting there for some bizarre reason, but he'd been fighting for 10 years. He'd obviously been brutalised and he'd been radicalised. So he was a Catholic, and there was a lot of discrimination. They took it into their own hands and they created this thing called the Gunpowder Plot. Every 5th of November we have a bonfire, and on the top we have a guy. When I was a kid, we always used to make an effigy. Everybody did, all the kids did. And they made a guy, and it was called Penny for the Guy. And so you'd stand outside maybe as a shop. We would ask them, penny for the guy, mister, we would say. And then we would get given a penny. Penny in those days could buy quite a lot. And then we would take the pennies that we got given and we would go and buy fireworks, because in those days, an 8-year-old child could easily buy fireworks. There wasn't any regulation. So we'd buy fireworks. So we'd go home to our parents and say, look, we've got these fireworks now, penny for the guy. And everybody was doing it. Everybody made a guy, and you'd put it on your go-kart or an old pram or something, and you'd have this scabby looking but everybody made one. My auntie used to make treacle toffee, but also they made parkin. Now, parkin is very much a Yorkshire thing, but it's obviously, I grew up in North Wales, and it's sort of meandered across the north of England and into North Wales. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to make Yorkshire parkin. Now, we're going to make it and we're going to eat it as well. It'll take a little bit of time, but we'll obviously segment it so that you don't have to just sit and watch me bake. The first part of the process is we have to have the aromatic. Parkin is a ginger oat cake. Key ingredient, the one that gives it all the taste and the flavour, is ginger. That's the fundamental part to it. Going to be adding about 3 teaspoons of ginger. So we've got this bowl here, so we can actually do this now. So we've got 3 teaspoons of ginger. Okay. Now that's going to be the oh dear, that's going to be the key ingredient. But we're also going to add some cinnamon, and that's 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. So we can add that. Yeah, and then to top it all, we're going to add some nutmeg. Now again, that's half a teaspoon of nutmeg. So we add that. All of these I've ground ingredients which I've had in my cupboard. So these have all come from my cupboard. These are from my cupboard as well. I couldn't get ground cloves or ground coriander seeds, but I went and bought some. So what we've got here is we have got whole cloves, and I don't know whether you know what whole cloves are like, and then we've got coriander seeds, and there we are. That's what they look like. Okay, so we can see that they look there, right? And but what I have done is I've got my pestle and mortar out, and I've ground them down as best I can into the pestle. So we're going to add those in there as well. So let's add that in there. That's going to give the flavour to the entire cake. You can buy this ground mixed spice, and that has got in it cinnamon, coriander seeds, nutmeg, whole cloves, allspice and ginger into it. So you could use that, or you can make it up from your own components. And the main components are coriander, ginger, nutmeg and cinnamon and cloves. Got all 5 of those in our bowl, and we're going to build the rest of the dry ingredients and put those in this bowl. There's more ingredients. There's quite a lot of ingredients in making Parkin, but if you work with us on this, it's relatively easy to make, but there's just quite a few ingredients. But the ingredients will be coming up on the screen at all times, okay? So we're going to put in 200 grams of oats, and it doesn't really matter what oats you have. We want some oats in there. So we've got 200 grams of oats. We've got 200 grams of flour. Now I'm using a white bread type flour here, but you could use wholemeal bread as well, or you could use self-raising if you really want to. And then we're adding some sugar, and this sugar is dark brown sugar. And we are adding 175 grams. To top it all, we also have to add 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, sodium bicarbonate. That is the dry mix. As we just need to mix it up to make sure that everything is evenly distributed. I'm using one of these things. I got it from AliExpress. It's not so bad, to be honest. I think it's called a Dutch whisk. There we are now. Now, the interesting thing about Guy Fawkes is he was a York boy. He grew up in York. They're not really quite sure whereabouts he grew up, but he went to St. Peter's School. Now, St. Peter's School's still going. It was opened 624 or something like that. So it's the 4th oldest school in the world. It was for people who had money. Us working class oiks, we would not get any school. We didn't get school, I don't think, until something like the 1800s. He was obviously from a fairly well-to-do family, was Guy Fawkes, and he would walk, we believe, along Petergate, and he would then cross over, and he would go up Bootham, and he would arrive at St. Peter's School, and that's when he went to St. Peter's School for a number of years. After that time, he then went and fought. So he was somehow radicalised, because not everybody would go wandering off to become a soldier and fight for 10 years in Belgium, but he did. And so he came back, probably quite disillusioned about the whole thing, and of course he would probably have had PTSD and everything else. These sort of well-to-do sort of characters sort of persuaded him to join their plot. And he had, of course, because he'd been in the forces, he'd been fighting as a soldier, he had experience with munitions, and so he was ideally placed for it. Because they were all Catholics, what they wanted to do is they wanted to tip off any of the Catholic members of Parliament, and they did that, something on the 23rd or 25th of October of 1605. They tipped off some Catholic MP, who went and told the authorities. So they knew that the thing was going on. So they let it carry on. And then on the night they just caught him, and that was it. So poor old Guy Fawkes was nabbed. He was the first one to be nabbed, and of course probably he was tortured, and he gave all the names of all the plotters. And they knew all the plotters. And some of them were high-to-do people, but they were all caught, and well, one wasn't. He was killed. Most of them were all the plotters were found. They were hauled in it, and in the January of 1606, they were all hung, drawn, and quartered. Quite a few other people have been hung, drawn, and quartered, and hung outside to be picked on by the crows and what have you in York. York was always the second city. Also, being halfway between London and Edinburgh, it was a natural stop-off point. It's 200 miles from London to York, and it's 200 miles from York to Edinburgh. And of course, James I was the first king to be king of both Scotland and England. The 1600s was an interesting time because, of course, in 1607, the English they established their first colony in the Americas. And of course, in 1620, the Pilgrim Fathers set up at the Plymouth colony. They were British in 1610. Of course, you celebrate, of course, coming up the Thanksgiving Day, and it's the same sort of thing. But all of these celebrations go back to, believe it or not, to the 1st of November. They've all got a sort of an origin in pagan times, and they go back to the 1st of November was the start of the winter. You have a whole series of pagan ceremonies, and of course the Christians just simply absorbed all of these pagan ceremonies, and they gave them other reasons. So what happened was you'd light bonfires for the 1st of November. You would also make certain foods, and one of them was an oat cake, and the oat cake is believed to be Parkin. So the Yorkshire Parkin goes back, predates even the arrival of Christianity. It goes back. It's geared to the seasons, and they would bake these. But of course, it's changed the amount of things. I mean, you didn't have treacle in those. The treacle came from Barbados from the West Indies. They had some forms of sugar in there, and they would make these sort of oat cakes, and the Parkin was it. The name Parkin didn't appear in writing until 1728. In Leeds, for a long, long time, instead of calling the 5th of November Bonfire Night, they used to call it Parkin Night. Parkin is a good thing to make. Now, look, I've mixed this up. You can see here, I've mixed up all the dry ingredients. Let's put this to one side. And now, we need the other ingredients. And there's 3 ingredients. Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason, and plot. There's 3 ingredients in. We're putting in 170 grams of butter. Now this is unsalted butter. We've got our butter in here. We've got 170 grams of the butter, and I'm going to use this tare function here because we need to add 80 grams of golden syrup. So I need to be looking on here, and you can see it there under the. So I'm going to add 80 grams of golden syrup. There we go, 80 grams of golden syrup. Now we have to add 120 grams of treacle. Right, now I've got clean hands. What you have to do, we'll prepare the pan that it's all going in. The first thing you have to do is you have to put butter on. Butter into the pan, and you have to butter the pan because this is a very sticky thing. And we're also going to be putting some baking parchment in here as well. But we've got that butter on there. Mess. So I've got some greaseproof paper. So we're going to push the greaseproof paper into the, crudely, we're going to put it into the pan here, and then we'll put some more butter onto the greaseproof paper. So you're using a lot of butter Jamie Oliver will like this. He likes butter. We buttered the outside. We're buttering the inside. So we've now got our tray ready. And put that to one side. We've got our butter and we've got our golden syrup in the pan. Right, we turn that on. Set it to tare. Now we've got to add 120 grams of the treacle. So I've been having the treacle sitting in this bowl of boiling water to hopefully soften it. And I'm going to also put my spoon in the boiling water. And it therefore should treat, because it's molasses. So here we go. Which means, look, we want to get to 120 grams. What if I have it over? That's one. That's 35. Another dollop. We can't do two things. This is too difficult anyway. We want 120 grams. We're up to 90, 91, 90, 100. I think if we have a small amount, that should do it, because the spoon, I'm going to put the spoon in here. There we are, we're at 120. So this is Lyle's black treacle. Yeah. If you want to, you could use maple syrup but you really need the treacle to give the extra molasses flavour and everything else. What we have to do now is we have to heat it up, and we have to heat it, but we can't boil it. We have to cook, so we have to watch it. So I'm going to turn the thing on so you get to see this in real life. So we're melting the butter and we're melting the treacle and the syrup, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pour it onto our dry ingredients, and then we're going to bake it. Doing it in front of the camera is far more difficult. If you were doing this at home, it's dead easy. You get the dry ingredients, put them in a bowl, then you get the three ingredients, the butter, the treacle and the syrup, and you mix them together so that they all melt and they become a bit more liquid. And then you add this to the dry, and then you put it in an oven at 106. There are two more things that this has gone too hot. So you have to watch it, because you can't let it boil more. Look, can you see it's sort of bubbling, but it's at the right temperature, so we don't need to do much. Right, so I'm going to put that there, and you can see here that it isn't so treacly anymore. Two more ingredients we have to add to the mix. 45 millilitres of milk. I'm using this one, it's easier to do it. It really doesn't matter. You can put 50 in if you really want to. I'm putting in 50. The mix. So we've got our milk and we want to just beat an egg into that. Any egg. These are free range eggs, of course. One egg. The only exercise I've got today. Now I'm using full fat milk, but you can use any milk you like. It's not critical, you can just use any milk. Right, so there's our dry mix with all our dry ingredients. Now we're going to pour in the liquid, the butter, the treacle and the syrup, which is hot. So that's in. Get rid of that, and we'll put it under a mat just in case. Now this is a Pyrex bowl, just in case. So you blend it in. It smells incredible. You've got the various sugars are smelling, but additionally you can smell all the cinnamon and the ginger and the nutmeg. This is dry now. We can't go much further than that. So we add the egg with the milk. We're trying to get to a batter consistency, and it might well be need to add a drop more milk, but we want to get to a batter. So it really has to be quite runny. That's why using one of these is good, because this is used when you're making bread and whatever. It's quite heavy. Is this mix, because those sugars, that treacle, is going to be wanting to cool down. You can see here as I'm mixing it, we've now got a uniformity right the way down. I think that is quite a good batter, but I might just add a little bit more milk because it will evaporate. Just a little bit more milk, I think. But again, it very much depends on the flour and also the oats, because they're going to all absorb the liquid. Now this goes quite hard when you first cook it, and then it cools down and it then becomes softer. And Parkin is really nice, and you slice it up in, and I can serve it hot if you want to. You can serve it hot, or you can serve it cold. You were doing it on Bonfire Night, you would have it in pieces, and you would eat a piece whilst you have your bonfire and whilst you're setting off your fireworks. The world was a very different place in the early 1960s, but I mean, kids were doing Penny for the Guy for years before that, and at some point it died out, probably when decimalisation. You can serve this up with custard as well, and if you stay till the very end, you might see an 18-year younger version of me and custard. I won't say any more. You could mix it in a mixer, but to do this, you get to see this consistency of it, and we're using basic tools. We're not using anything fancy. All the tools we're using is just a bowl and the ingredients and one of these things, and you could just as easily use a spatula, a wooden spatula. Right, this is now all mixed up, so we need to put it in. This is the tray we did earlier. We have to just pour it into the tray. This is where I feel a little bit nervous. It goes in the tray. You can see it's going in the tray here. It looks very strange. It is getting a little bit more sticky because it's cooling down, and we need to get it into the oven. I could probably do with that spoon now. Oh, I've got the spatula, haven't I? Here's the spatula. Couldn't remember where I put it. And this is when it gets a little bit messy. These November celebrations they go really, ultimately, they go back to pagan times. First time the name Parkin appeared was in 1728, because some woman was caught stealing oatmeal. She said that she wanted to make some Parkin. But the name Parkin probably goes back to Celtic times. Let me just tell you what you can also do if you feel like it. You can add fruits to it to give it a bit more flavour. We can put candied peel. That will give it a load more flavour, which is obviously orange and lemon peel. And additionally, we can add some dried cranberries. Give it a bit more of an American feel there. And you say, well, how do I mix it in? Well, it's easy. It's still cooling down and it's still getting thicker, but we can just blend it in. Really is getting thicker now. But you should have added this at the beginning. I just forgot. So let's put it in the oven now. And we have to cook it for 1 hour and 30 minutes. Right, so let's set it off. That's all. And we're going to choose a setting that enables us to cook it. Use air fry. And we'll reduce this down to 60. So that's air fry setting 160. And we're going to do it for 40 minutes. And we'll see what it's like at 40 minutes. And set that off. The High Sapientia has just beeped and it's done 40 minutes. I've checked it with a skewer and it says if it comes out dry, it looks to me like it's cooked, but it seems strange that it's cooked in 40 minutes. So I'm going to do it for another 20 minutes. That would make it 1 hour. It's done at 160, so I daren't risk it more than that. So I'm going to set it for 20 minutes and see how we go. We're going to do it again on air fry. So it's all air fry. 20 minutes. There we go. The High Sapientia is done now. It's been running for 1 hour. We'll take it out again. and we'll have another look. We'll put it on here, and we'll... They say when you push that, it should spring back up. Well, it's springing back up. Yeah, so I think we're done. I think we've got it done. So it's an air fryer, of course. It's been air fried rather than anything else. Let's just test the temperature inside. Put it on this rack here, which is cooler. Can you see the temperature there? It's 104. So, I mean, I think it's definitely hit the temperature. Let's leave it now for 30 minutes and get a little spoon and put the spoon in. Oh, there we go. Look, the spoon. It certainly is cooked. You can see there. Look. That's right. So I did for 1 hour in the air fryer. This tastes really good. Really, really good. I feel tempted to test it now. 1 second. Let's leave this here. Let's get a bowl. We've got a bowl. I'm going to have some custard with this, hot custard. So that's in the microwave. Now, the custard I'm using came from Aldi, and it's an instant custard. I've used it before, and it's a great hot or cold custard, deliciously creamy, Bell Bake. Who knows quite who makes it, but it's probably made by Ambrosia. We can have it hot or we can have it cold. We're having it hot. Now's the time. This custard is boiling hot. It really, really heated up very fast in the microwave. I should have only done it for half a minute. Tastes rather nice. So we did half a minute in the microwave for a small amount. Let's get some of this out. We'll take a cube out there. Look, how's about that? We'll take a chunk out, and it's cooked right the way through. Yep. It looks great. Really nice and crumbly. We'll put the custard on top. This is a dessert you could have any time, but it's more a seasonal thing. So you could November, December. It certainly would be a good alternative to Christmas pudding. I don't like Christmas pudding. There's a confession that I have. I don't like Christmas pudding, but this would be a good alternative to that. This will last, by the way, for up to 3 weeks. And you put it in a tin, and it'll keep. You can leave it in ambient temperatures, so there isn't an issue there. But I think it will go very, very quickly. My daughter's visiting probably, I think, on Tuesday, and that will be the pudding. So I mean, in Britain, in Northern Britain, we call desserts puddings. Can I have a pudding is basically anything that's... In the south of England, they are a little bit more precise. They regard only certain things as puddings, and other things as desserts. But this dessert is our pudding. So it complies very happily with our Sunday strand. Let's have a little look. Can we see? Look, can you see that there? That is absolutely beautiful. Look at it. Bring it to you here. Look at that. Look at that cake. That cake is done. It's perfectly done. Let's taste it. And it's obviously, it's got oats in it. It's got everything. It's a lovely warming dessert. You can taste the ginger. You can taste the cloves. You can taste the cinnamon. A little bit of nutmeg. And of course, I put that mixed peel in there, and the cranberries. My oh my! I haven't done a cake pudding, hot pudding, for a very long time. But this really gets to where it needs to be. And you can have it cold as well. And that's the point. So, every part of this is flavoured. The oats are adding to it. Everything's perfectly cooked. It's not dry. There's a moisture there. There's plenty of lift as well. It's not got a heavy feel. You can see how crumbly it is. Look how crumbly it is. I bet you'd like to have a portion of that, wouldn't you? Now this is Yorkshire Parkin. Lancashire Parkin, slightly different. They don't use the dark treacle. It doesn't really matter. This is... it's out of this world. I'll have to plot how to do this again. I don't think it'll be a problem. Now, you can use the same formula and modify certain elements to it. So you can, if you don't like ginger and you don't like nutmeg, change it for cinnamon. If you don't like any of their aromatics, well, don't have them. Put vanilla in there. Put a bit of vanilla extract, lemon juice, and orange juice in there. It's very flexible. The base, so you have your aromatics, which is part one. Part two is you have your dry ingredients, which is the flour, the oats, and the sugar. And then you have the green ingredients that go in the saucepan, and they are the butter, the treacle, and the syrup. And if you want to have maple syrup, you can have. If you wanted to change the treacle over to something like pomegranate molasses, well, you could do that as well. Then you combine them in the bowl, and you add 1 egg and 45 of milk. And it's really easy. You put it in any old pan. This pan here is it's hot. I should know it's hot, of course. But this pan here I bought this pan today, actually, from Asda. It wasn't terribly expensive, but I needed one that was about this size that would fit into my high sapientia, so I took the tray with me. But look, you've got a finished product there, which is going to provide a great deal of good food, a lovely evening dessert for the next few days. Well, I'm not allowed to rate my own food. But if I was, out of 5, it'd be a 5. Because you could serve this up with cream or ice cream, but we'll try a cold piece. I couldn't resist it. It just is so lovely. And we've saved a lot of time using the air fryer as well. What tip? I should have put more cranberries in. That cranberry really did lift it. I was going to put glacé cherries in, but I couldn't get any. So unfortunately, I couldn't. But you could. You could put glacé cherries in there. You could try anything. You could even put you could put slices of orange in there. You could put anything. Every bite is a joy. But it is. You've just got to have all the ingredients. You've just got to have the ingredients there. But if you haven't got any of the aromatics, don't worry about it. So buy yourself a mixed spice, which costs £1 from our house, and that would probably do about 6 different 6 different recipes. So it costs next to nothing, and then you just put in what you've got. It is remember, it's a Northern England dish, and in those situations they put in whatever they had available, and I've been lucky. I've obviously been able to put bits and pieces that I've got hanging around because I bought them. But if you haven't got them and you just feel like cooking something, if it was the oven, you need probably to say an hour and a half. But if it's an air fryer, do it in an hour. But check your temperatures, and if you get to about 100, you're there. It's about cooked. And if it's spongy, what you have to do, you can probably see it. This might be okay. When you push it down, it springs back. Now it'll set hard, and then in the next 24 hours, then it'll soften again. Don't ask me why, but that's, I'm told, is how it happens. Recipe books tell me that's the secret. So that's me done. Again, hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed cooking it and eating it. Please try the Parkin. Remember, it's Yorkshire gingerbread Parkin, and tell me how you get on in the comments. It'd be interesting if you've got a different recipe for Parkin. Again, put it in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, just click on the thumb button, which means that you like it. That tells the YouTube algorithm that it was a good video. And therefore more people might be interested in watching it, so the algorithm will recommend it. So when it recommends more people watch it, then maybe more people subscribe. So if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. It helps them a great deal. I'm doing this for 2 reasons. 1, to combat loneliness and being bored in retirement. And 2 is I have to somehow manage to pay for all this electricity that I've got running on here. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time. But for now, it's me, Nikki at Nikki's Nosh, saying, haha, cheers, me dears.
Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.